how long ago did you donate?
So our transplant was September 18th last year, 2018.
Okay, wonderful. Who did you donate to?
I donated to my husband.
And you
sitting
can-
right here next to me.
Wonderful. And you can elaborate. How long have you been married?
We've been married 36 years.
It's wonderful.
We knew each other 5 years, dated 5 years before we were married, so our whole life. We were high school sweethearts.
That's awesome. That is, and it shows. It shows. You two are so much in love. What made you decide to donate?
Oh my gosh, he needed it. And why not? I was just so grateful that it was a match.
She would not have let me take a kidney from anyone else.
Yes,
If she was a match. She said that very specifically.
That's right.
Right.
You know, and it was so wonderful because there were so many that did want to be tested.
Right.
And
That's
we
awesome.
We feel very grateful and blessed and thankful, you know, that there were so many people that did want to do that.
Right.
But I was really, really so happy when I was a match.
Yes. Awesome. That's wonderful. What advice would you give to potential donors?
Oh my gosh, for me, don't be scared. It's a beautiful gift of life, and I know that a lot of people think that they're going to be on medication for the rest of their lives, and even if you were, it's still not scary to me. It doesn't hurt, you know. I think a lot of people, you know, as a matter of fact, it's good for your heart and soul to know that you're able to help somebody in that way. There's so many ways to help people, and that is a beautiful gift.
Yes.
Her recovery was incredible. Look, it seemed like 2 days after the hospital, she was bouncing around.
Wow.
She had always been.
That's
So
awesome.
I was surprised.
That's awesome. I can't say that.
Oh.
That's wonderful.
But you know, it is hard on the donor. It is hard on the donor, but they prepare you very well.
Yes.
You know, when they're talking to us, and I mean the transplant team, like Phil mentioned, you know, earlier, it's like a well-oiled machine, and they hit all the things the questions that we had, and so I think we were prepared, and we knew what to expect.
Right.
So nothing surprised us.
Right.
You know?
Right. So first of all, tell us your name.
I am Mary Ann Durantis Shock.
All right. Thank you, Marianne. Okay. How long ago did you donate?
I donated 6.5 years ago.
Okay. Who did you donate to?
I donated to my younger brother
Oh, awesome. What made you decide to donate?
because he needed something that I had and I could give it to him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what advice would you give to potential donors?
You really don't realize the gift of freedom that you're giving that individual or that family, and it is basically something so simple. It's no hurt of your body as a donor because you're that healthy already to be a donor. So the recovery time and the bounce back time is practically zero. So it's definitely worth something doing, and to see them come back to life and to be energetic and to live free without any connections and appointments and dialysis is priceless.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Lisa A. Coliani.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. How long ago did you donate?
I donated in November of 2011.
Okay. And who did you donate to?
I am an altruistic, which means non-directed a kidney donor, so I did not know the person. All I knew was that it was a mother and her age and where she lived. Fortunately, some would say unfortunately, but fortunately my husband met her son in the waiting room, so they allowed me to meet her. So I was able to meet her in the hospital just before I was discharged.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. What made you decide to donate?
What made me decide to donate was that I work for the Washington Regional Transplant Community, which is the local organ recovery for organized tissue donation. I work with the donor families of deceased donors, so I companion them on their grief journey. I see their pain. I meet family members who have lost folks waiting for organ transplants that just didn't come because, as you know, the list is so long.
Right.
And I met those that benefited by donation. And time was running out for me because I'm going to live until I'm 90, and no one would want my organs then. So I didn't happen to know anybody at the time, and so why not? And perfectly healthy and feel great.
Awesome, awesome. And what advice would you give to potential donors?
The advice that I would give to potential donors is that this is the most loving, kindness, full of compassion gift that you can ever give. But what I didn't realize was that I too gained, and that by giving a donor, giving a kidney, is really very good for your heart. Because I knew that I had a face to my recipient, and I learned how sick she was, and knowing so many are benefiting from donation really marks your heart. So in addition to giving that gift of life to someone else, you in turn return by having your heart touched.
Yes. Oh, you're amazing.
My name is Jim Piper. I'm one of the transplant surgeons at Northern Fairfax Hospital, and I've been here for 17 years.
Awesome, awesome. So my first question is, how many transplants have you done?
Oh, that would be a difficult one. It's in the thousands. Wow. Currently, kind of do personally about 50 or so a year, and I've been doing it for 30 years. And so it's up over 1,000.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Could you briefly describe the surgical procedure
For the transplant?
for the
The
well,
donor or the transplant?
I guess both.
Okay.
Let's do both.
So currently the donor has the easier part of this. Right now, virtually all centers in the United States do laparoscopic. We do a true laparoscopic, not a hand assisted, which means it's just 3 little teeny incisions. Problem is, I still haven't figured out how to get a kidney the size of your fist out through a little 1/4-inch incision. So we do make a little 2-inch extraction site way down, right above the pubic bone, right on the hairline. And we use that extraction site for 2 reasons. Number one, cosmetically, it's great if you really see it. And number 2, we don't have to cut muscles, therefore we don't have to restrict your activities, and people are back golfing and running within quite literally a week or so of their operation. So the donor operation now is actually less of a recovery, less of pain, less time in hospital than the recipient undergoes. The recipient, again, we put the kidney down in the groin area, kind of right by the hip bone, because we need an artery, we need a vein, and we need the bladder to drain the new urine into, and that all resides right there. So we don't put them back up where your native kidneys go, we put them down there. So it's usually a small incision. Most people are out of the hospital in about 3 to 4 days. And depending on the type of kidney we get, most kidneys work right away. If it's a living donor, it's 19 out of 20 work right away. And if it's a deceased donor, depending upon some of the issues around how the donor passed away, it can be 1 in 4, even as high as 1 in 2 may not work as well, or work right away, but when they do work, they work just as well. So it's just we're all into immediate gratification. We want it to work right away, but sometimes it doesn't, and so we have to wait for a couple weeks for it to wake back up, but when it does wake up, it works just as good.
Yes. Awesome. My third question is, what's the average recovery time?
I hate the word recovery. And the reason is that we now know that people who lay in bed and recover don't do as well as those that are up and active. So in fact, at least at our institution, it's so important after you donate or after you get a transplant, we want you up and walking the same day after surgery. The more you walk, the less pain you'll have. The more you walk, the fewer complications you have. And the more you walk, the faster you'll get out of the hospital. So we want you to walk, 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 walk. Once you go home, what I tell people is I don't care where you go, I don't care what you do, but I want you to call every friend, neighbor, and relative you got. and tell them if they're going anywhere today, come get me. If they're going to the shopping mall, the grocery store, just get me out of the hospital or out of the house for a couple hours a day so I can go out and walk and do things. So what we do restrict on the recipients is we don't want them doing any heavy lifting for the first 6 weeks to 2 months. But with the donors, since we don't have to cut any muscles, they can go back to pretty much full activity as soon as they want. And like I said, most people on the donor side back to work within 1 to 2 weeks. And we've had people who played in a golf tournament 2 weeks after they donated. We have another woman who ran a half marathon a month later. We have a third woman who actually did her first of 11 mud runs 2 months afterwards and did 11 of them in the first year after she donated. So people are getting back pretty darn quick after donation. Again, recipients though, usually don't want them to be too athletic and too strenuous of activities for about 6 weeks to 2 months.
Okay. Awesome. And then my last question is, what would you say to those who are contemplating donating?
So what we know is that when we look at the Department of Defense database, looking at people back in the Vietnam and Korean wars that had 2 kidneys and lost one in battle, what we know is if we follow them on for the next 65 years for the Korean War, 45 years for the Vietnam War, that there's really no difference in outcome between those with 1 kidney and 2 kidneys. So the thought of having a single kidney is not that scary. Furthermore, the University of Minnesota about 8 or 10 years ago did a very nice study looking at 50 years worth of living donors. And what they found is that actually living donors tend to have a longer life expectancy than those who don't donate. Now, it turns out the reason is we put the donors through a very vigorous evaluation, so we're selecting the healthiest people. So it's the fact that you're healthy enough to donate that gives you the better outcome. And whether you choose to donate or not really doesn't change your long-term outlook. So the implications of having a single kidney aren't that great. As we just learned, most people are out of the hospital in a couple of days and back to full activity in a week or so. And so it is something that I think you can consider a relatively safe procedure that is going to give an amazing amount of help and benefit to somebody in need. People on dialysis, all comers, about 10% of the people die each year on dialysis just because it truly is not as good as a native kidney. And if we're over age 60, that number doubles to about 20% per year will die on dialysis. So the generosity, the gift that you're giving should make you feel like you've done something super special, but more importantly, you really have changed a life and very likely saved a life in the process. So I would encourage everybody to at least consider this.
Thank you. That was amazing.
All right.
Bernice Taylor donated her kidney to her niece Samantha.
Hey, she prepped for her surgery. Yes. It's been very rewarding. I just can't even explain how happy I am to have been able to do that.
And as they all share stories and smiles, each one painting a picture of the power of a second chance and of putting other people